So the ministry is working on that, and I didn't know it was maybe the IMF's pressure or they did it on their own, but yesterday we did have a very extensive meeting.
But don't exaggerate and inflate your claims. Let me tell you, I have gone through this exercise, and one of the problems I faced in settling the claims, I was a neutral party, that's why I was given this job, was everybody was inflating and exaggerating the claims. If you do that, you are actually doomed to failure right from the beginning.
These are all audited
so
numbers.
Please get them audited by a respectable audit company, and everybody should get it. IPPs should get it, PSO should get it, refineries should get it, and then present those claims. Because last time I found that we had to discount a lot of these claims which are inflated.
My billing are absolutely correct.
I'm glad. I'm very happy. I want everyone to do this same thing.
Actually, the issue of reconciliation and the excessive claims is not with the companies like HUBCO, PSO and the refineries. So they have segregated this group of companies separate, but they have issues like with KWSBs and WAPDAs and all those places.
Right.
So there are two classes of people over there.
Iqbal
Usman, do you understand the interest rate is the solution to contain the inflation in Pakistan?
Oh my God. I knew that this is coming out.
How many times in your life have you been asked that question?
Look, let's first determine what is the policy objective, because every instrument has to be related to what your policy objective is. The day is that we have to bring down inflation, not only through the interest rate. Let me remind you, interest rate is only one of the instruments. Supply side is equally important. Why inflation is important as a policy objective today? Because Pakistan has never seen in its history at any point of time a 25% inflation rate. When we used to go for a double digit, there was a hue and cry in the country. The two groups which get hurt most from inflation are the poor, because they don't have any assets, and the fixed income groups, who are quite vocal in any society. So if you have the objective that you want inflation to be lowered, then the interest rates curtail the aggregate demand and lead people to save more, because their returns on the savings are going to be quite high. The speculative demand for money is reduced, and therefore it is good, but there's a time lag. It doesn't happen overnight. What is the flip side of it? The production in industry is lowered because the interest rate costs are higher and they cannot absorb it, particularly at this time when there is power shortages, there are gas shortages, there are fuel oil prices which are going up. So cumulatively this is going to hurt the growth, and the growth will be lower because of this. If you want to have growth as your policy objective, then the interest rate increase is not the solution. It is something else, which is interest rate reduction. But then you must be prepared to accept 50% inflation. So it depends what is your policy objective at any point of time. And the policy objectives should change from time to time. In 2001, when the economic growth rate was 1.8%, we cut down the interest rates to stimulate the economy. We could not use the fiscal policy lever because the debt GDP ratio was 100%. But inflation at that time was 4%. And therefore there was a lot of slack in the economy. So we put the accelerator on the monetary policy, expansionary monetary policy, brought it down to 3-4%, and investment took place and the growth took place. But in 2005, inflation started showing its head, so you had to tighten the monetary policy. So there cannot be one recipe for all times to come. The recipes have to change according to the circumstances and according to the policy objectives that you have.
Sir, there has been a lot of talk about the Fiscal Responsibility Act as well, and the governor, the current governor, has been very vocal in her criticism of the continued patterns of government borrowing, and obviously you're caught in that catch-22 situation.
Yeah.
Your comments on that?
Well, yesterday, as you were present at this forum, I said the State Bank cannot do anything about it because under the law, anytime the government borrows, automatically a market trade treasury bill is created. There's an automatic linkage. So unless you change the law and make it a part of the Fiscal Responsibility Act, whereby there is a ceiling on the government borrowing in the State Bank, this is something which will happen. Whether you have the willingness to, stop the borrowing, that's a different act. But as far as the legal framework is concerned, it allows the government to automatically borrow from the State Bank.
Doctor, excuse me. Doctor, you have been, I'm here.
Ji.
You have been educating a lot about the private sector to do the business over the years, and you just mentioned also, and you always said that the government basically should come as the regulators, and they obviously keep tightening the belt whenever it is required. But recently what happened in the United States and also basically in the Europe, where the government had to inject a lot of money obviously in the financial institutions, do you think so that the capitalism as an economic system does not have the same strengths, and it has got its own weaknesses, fundamental weaknesses? The government actually should come out in the large conglomerates with the financial stakes and then should regulate it properly, because obviously then they can have a lot of say apart from developing the macroeconomics objectives.
I think if we draw the conclusion, which lots of people are doing, and you are not the only one, that what happened in the United States and Europe today is a negation of the whole capitalist system, we are in for trouble, because that's not the case. The case is that you have to save capitalism from capitalists themselves. And the capitalists, because they were not regulated and because they were coming up with financial innovations which the regulators did not understand, took excessive risks with other people's money. And when you take excessive risks with other people's money, then it is the duty of the state to come in and protect the system. A lot of people ask the question whether Mr. Paulson made the right judgment call when he did not bail out Lehman Brothers. He did bail out AIG because AIG was carrying all the credit default swaps of about 25% of the overall exposure, and anything happened to AIG would have repercussions throughout the financial system. Lehman Brothers also had a lot of exposure outside the banking system in what I call as the shadow banking system. And the fact that you had unregulated or poorly regulated or weakly regulated financial system outside banking, in my view, is one of the trigger point of this whole issue. Why? In the conventional banking model, the mortgage loans were originated by the bank itself, and it kept that exposure on its books, and the servicing was being done. So there was an obligation on the originating banks to do due diligence as far as the creditworthiness and the repayment capacity of the borrower was concerned. But when you take and have the originate and distribute model, where you aggregate all that, slice and dice, get the credit rating, pass it on to the other